The English Mike, learn English.
Welcome. So you sent us a really fascinating mix of material today. It's all looking at self-discipline.
Yeah, it's quite a range, isn't it? We've got articles from Clever Memo, Anthony Vicino. Looks like a podcast description, some Reddit threads.
Right, and Faster Capital on inner dialogue, even something from NetSuite aimed at educators.
It seems like you're looking to really, cut through the noise, get straight to the practical stuff on building self-discipline without getting bogged down.
Exactly. That's the plan for this deep dive. Figure out the core ideas and, more importantly, the actionable strategies you can actually use.
Okay, so our mission, if you like, is to pull together these different viewpoints, expert takes, personal experiences from Reddit, and distill it all down into something genuinely useful, understanding self-discipline as a real skill.
So where do we kick off with such a big topic? Defining it seems like a good place.
Yeah, Clever Memo offers a pretty solid start. They basically say it's acting on what you intend to do, even when you don't feel like it.
Right, like when you're facing challenges or, temptation is calling your name.
Exactly. And they make a crucial link, don't they, between discipline and motivation. You need that strong WHY.
That compelling reason. Without it, it's just effort.
Right. It becomes this constant uphill battle, which leads to a really key question for you listening. Are you really prepared to, well, pay the price for the change you want? What's your why?
That's a big one to chew on. And Anthony Vicino, he talks about this internal struggle too, doesn't he? He frames discipline as a weapon in this war within.
Yeah, I like that framing. He mentions the biological you, that part of us wanting comfort, the easy path, and then the resistance.
The resistance, that sounds familiar. Like all those excuses, the fear, the distractions, that little voice telling you not to bother.
Precisely. It's that force that wants to keep things the same. Vicino's point is that understanding this internal conflict, realizing you can often be your own main obstacle, is a huge first step.
Okay, so it's not just about doing things, it's about managing what's going on inside.
Exactly. And that ties into how some other sources view self-discipline itself.
Oh, yeah. Like how?
Well, New Trader U and definitely the discussions on Reddit, they really push back on the idea that discipline is some fixed thing you either have or you don't.
Ah, so it's not like eye color.
No, exactly. They frame it as a skill, something you
Yeah.
can actually develop,
Yeah.
like learning an instrument.
Hmm.
It takes practice, consistent effort.
That's quite empowering, actually. And didn't New Trader you also mention something about willpower and physical energy?
Yes, that willpower might not be this limitless reserve. It could be tied to how physically rested or depleted you are, which is, just practical to remember.
Makes sense. If you're exhausted, fighting temptation is harder.
Totally. And they also bring in the idea of mindset, growth versus fixed.
Right. The growth mindset being that you can develop abilities versus the fixed mindset where you think, oh, I'm just not disciplined.
And that difference is massive, isn't it? If you believe you can improve, you're much more likely to, well, put in the work to build that discipline skill. If you think it's fixed, why bother trying?
Okay, so we've got a definition. We understand the internal battle, the need for a why, and this idea of discipline as a skill linked to mindset. That's a solid base.
So the next logical step is how? How do you actually build it?
Exactly what we need to get into. And the sources are packed with practical ideas. Clever Memo, for instance, really hammers home the need for clear, specific goals.
Goals that actually mean something to you, linked to your values.
Right. Otherwise, what's driving the discipline? If the goal is vague or something you don't really care about, good luck sticking to it.
It's like setting off on a journey with no destination. And building on that, New Trader U and, wow, so many Reddit comments talk about starting small. Really small.
Micro habits. Yeah.
Exactly. Forget the massive overnight transformation. Think 5 minutes of meditation, laying out your gym clothes the night before. Tiny things.
Things you can actually do consistently.
Yes. Those small wins build momentum. They make you feel capable instead of overwhelmed. It's much more sustainable than some radical life overhaul that lasts maybe 3 days.
That progress over perfection idea that kept coming up on Reddit, it feels much more achievable.
Definitely. And another big strategy that came up was environmental design.
Shaping your surroundings.
Yeah. New Trader U, Reddit again. Basically making the discipline choice the path of least resistance.
Like the classic example. Don't want to eat cookies. Don't buy cookies. Don't keep them in the house.
Exactly. You remove the immediate temptation. You reduce the need to constantly fight yourself using that limited willpower we mentioned.
You're making it easier to succeed.
You're engineering your environment for success. And related to conserving mental energy, routines and time blocking came up too.
Scheduling things in, creating structure.
Right. New Trader U and Faster Capital both mention this. If decisions are already made, like I work on Project X from 9 to 10 a.m., you don't waste energy deciding to do it each time. It becomes more automatic.
Frees up willpower for other things. Okay. Now, Anthony Vicino had an interesting point about treating every decision as important, even small ones.
Yeah, that one's thought-provoking. The idea is that those little choices, water instead of soda, walk instead of couch, they add up. They build momentum.
They reinforce the identity of someone who is disciplined.
Kind of, yeah. And he brings it back again, really powerfully, to your why. He even quotes Nietzsche, doesn't he?
The man with a strong enough why can endure anyhow.
Exactly. That emotional connection to your reason, it's the fuel.
So finding that why isn't just a one-off thing, it's something to keep connecting back to.
Absolutely. And Vicino also suggests having daily discipline practices, small, regular things you do just to exercise that discipline muscle.
Like sticking to your schedule or doing that small task you don't feel like.
Could be, yeah. Just building consistency.
Now, something else that seems really vital, mentioned by Clever Memo and Faster Capital, is self-reflection.
Paying attention, observing your thoughts, your feelings, your actions.
Noticing when you start to drift off course.
Precisely. That awareness allows you to gently correct instead of suddenly finding yourself way off track. And this leads really nicely into managing your inner dialogue, which Faster Capital dives into.
The internal monologue, that constant chatter.
Yeah, and they stress just how much power it has over our choices and actions. It's about first hearing that voice, learning to tell the difference between, say, an impulse and actual reason.
And then actively steering it.
Yes. Consciously guiding the conversation inside your head towards something more helpful, more supportive.
And they gave specific techniques, right? Like cognitive restructuring.
Yeah, challenging those negative thoughts. Also mindfulness, just noticing thoughts without getting tangled up in them. Using affirmations, gratitude journaling.
So practical tools to actually change that inner narrative.
Exactly. Mindfulness, they point out, creates that little bit of space between a thought popping up and your reaction to it. Gives you a chance to choose your response.
Instead of just automatically reacting.
Right. And they even talk about cultivating an inner mentor, like an encouraging voice inside.
That's a nice idea, which kind of leads into handling setbacks, doesn't it? Because they will happen.
Oh, inevitably. And New Trader U talks about self-compassion here, having a reset ritual.
Not beating yourself up when you slip.
Definitely not. Viewing it as a learning opportunity. What went wrong? What can I do differently next time? That's key for staying in the game long term.
And sometimes, like the Reddit folks said, it's just do it.
Yeah, that simple, sometimes brutal honesty, like the advice, just pack your gym bag and go. Getting started is often the hardest part.
Overthinking can paralyze you.
Totally. And related to avoiding that paralysis, planning ahead came up a lot on Reddit too. Just simple forethought.
Makes sense. If you plan your meals, you're less likely to grab fast food impulsively.
Exactly. It reduces the number of in-the-moment decisions where willpower might fail you. All these strategies, they kind of weave together, don't they?
They really do. Planning helps the just do it. Environmental design supports the plan. The why fuels it all.
And managing the inner dialogue helps you navigate the tough moments.
Now, it's interesting to see this applied in different areas, too. Vicino mentioned procrastination specifically.
Which is often that resistance we talked about, just showing up as delaying tactics.
Right. And the Everend podcast description, that really paints self-discipline as fundamental for, well, success in pretty much any area of life, doesn't it? Long-term growth.
Yeah, health, finances, learning, relationships. It underpins so much.
And Faster Capital linked managing that inner talk to better stress management and resilience, too.
Makes perfect sense. If you can control the narrative in your head, you're less likely to be overwhelmed by external events.
Okay, and finally, that NetSuite workshop for educators. It seems specific, but had some broader takeaways.
I thought so. The focus on tact over attack and guiding behavior. That applies to how we talk to ourselves too, right?
Instead of attacking yourself for messing up, using tact. Being constructive.
Exactly. And listening to yourself, maintaining a calm inner tone. And those 4 virtues they listed for educators.
Fairness, inclusion, caring, respect.
Yeah, apply those internally. Treat yourself with fairness, include your own needs, care for yourself, respect your own journey. It adds another layer to building that positive internal environment needed for discipline.
That's a really nice connection. Okay, so bringing this all together as we wrap up.
It feels like the core message is self-discipline isn't magic. It's a skill.
A skill built on understanding your why, managing your mindset, shifting towards growth,
Recognizing that internal resistance,
and then using practical strategies, like starting incredibly small, designing your environment,
setting up routines, watching that inner talk, redirecting it.
and crucially, being kind to yourself when you stumble. Self-compassion.
Yeah, that came through so strongly, especially from the Reddit discussions. It's a journey. Ups and downs are normal. Focus on progress, not perfection. Keep going.
Right. Okay, so thinking about everything we've explored, the why, the tiny habits, the inner critic, self-compassion, here's a final thought for you listening.
What's one thing, one small concrete step you could take, maybe even today?
Yeah, something that strengthens your self-discipline but also feels genuinely connected to your personal why.
Maybe it's noticing one negative thought pattern you want to start questioning, or picking one micro habit to try for the next week.
What's that first small key you can turn on your own path towards, well, greater self-mastery? Something to really ponder.
And the unconscious nervous system.
So if I'm feeling overwhelmed or just blah, I can use breathing to actually change how I feel.
Absolutely. A technique Huberman highlights constantly is the physiological sigh. Super simple, super effective. It's a double inhale through the nose.
Like a quick sniff followed by a bigger one.
Exactly. 2 inhales through the nose, then 1 long, slow exhale, either through the mouth or nose.
Double inhale, long exhale.
That's it. The double inhale pops open the little air sacs in your lungs, the alveoli. The long exhale blows off excess carbon dioxide, which builds up when we're stressed. The immediate effect is often this wave of calm.
I can almost feel it just thinking about it.
Try it sometime. He's suggested as an instant anchor point, anytime, anywhere, to just reset.
Okay, cool. Any other breathing tricks?
Yeah, exhale, emphasize breathing in general.
Yeah.
Just consciously making your exhales longer than your inhales. That tends to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system. It's the break.
So lying awake, mind racing, focus on long exhales instead of trying to just stop thinking.
Much more effective, usually.
Yeah.
You're working with your physiology. Huberman also mentions other tools, like yogic sleep, guided relaxation protocols, and clinical hypnosis, like the Reverie app sessions with Dr. David Spiegel, can also leverage this body-mind link for relaxation and focus.
It really drives home that we have more levers to pull than we think just by tuning into our bodies.
Okay, another big one you mentioned is physical activity. How does regular movement connect to motivation?
Huberman often shares his own story here. Said he was a dreadful student early on.
A huge turning point was getting into weight training and running.
Yeah.
Inspired by a coach.
Yeah.
Why? Because it gave him this really clear, undeniable link. Put in consistent effort, get tangible results.
That makes total sense. School rewards can feel far off, abstract. But lifting weights, you lift more, you see it, you feel it.
Exactly. And the bigger lesson is discipline, pushing through discomfort. Learning that effort leads to change. He argues the mind often follows the body. You prove to yourself you can stick to a physical challenge, and that sense of agency, that discipline, it spills over.
Like a physical proof of concept for the mind. He also talks about central pattern generators, right? How exercise frees up mental energy.
Yeah, CPGs. These are neural circuits, mostly in the spinal cord and brainstem, that handle repetitive movements like walking or running almost automatic.
Okay.
When these take over, it frees up the higher parts of the brain, the forebrain, that handles complex thought and decision-making. So get a regular walking habit. You're putting that movement partly on autopilot, freeing up mental bandwidth for focus elsewhere.
So even just a consistent walk could actually help me concentrate better later.
Absolutely. And it ties into structure creating freedom. Have regular exercise time. That's one less decision cluttering your mind. That energy can go towards your real goals.
Structure isn't restriction, it's freeing up focus.
Yeah.
I like that. But speaking of focus,
Yeah.
wow, the modern world, phones, notifications, it feels like a constant battle. How does that relentless distraction mess with our motivation?
It's a huge challenge. Maybe the challenge for focus today. That constant pull, the instant gratification. It erodes our ability to stick with hard things. Huberman talks about go circuits in the brain initiating behavior and no-go circuits suppressing behavior.
So reaching for the phone is a go impulse, and stopping myself is the no-go circuit working.
Exactly. And resisting that urge takes effort. But like a muscle, those no-go circuits get stronger with practice. neuroplasticity.
So you can train your resistance.
Yes, he even shares his own practice.
Yeah.
Deliberately noticing the urge to check his phone and then consciously not doing it maybe 25 times a day, just as an exercise.
Wow, 25 times
Yeah.
just resisting. That sounds hard.
It is. And he says that feeling of effort, that friction, that's the sign you're doing the work. Strengthening the pathway, mental resistance training.
Building the don't touch the shiny thing muscle. Okay, so body, structure, resisting distraction. What about understanding the deeper why? The roots of chronic low motivation or fear.
That's where things like inner reflection and potentially therapy come in. Therapy provides that dedicated space to explore thoughts, feelings, patterns, the drivers behind why you do what you do.
It's not just talking, it's about understanding yourself better.
Right. The goal, as Huberman puts it, is to internalize that reflective process, to learn to honestly examine your own mind, see the patterns, understand your reactions.
Develop that self-awareness muscle too.
Precisely. And if therapy isn't accessible, or even alongside it, he's a big advocate for honest journaling, writing things down just for yourself, no filter.
Getting it out of your head and onto paper.
Exactly. Externalizing it helps you see it more clearly, recognize patterns, challenge unhelpful stories you tell yourself. It can help you step back and gain perspective.
Instead of just letting it swirl around inside. Or, like you said, trying to evacuate the feeling by reacting or distracting yourself.
Right. Journaling lets you sit with it, observe it, process it more constructively.
Okay, so pulling this all together, it really sounds like motivation, laziness, fear. They aren't just random states. They're all tied together deep down by our neurochemistry. Dopamine, adrenaline.
That's the core idea. Understanding that link between craving and activation, between dopamine and epinephrine, gives you power. Recognizing fear can be fuel. Using visualization, prioritizing sleep, using your body breath, movement to shift your mind, these are real tools.
And adding that layer of self-reflection through therapy or journaling to understand the deeper currents.
Exactly. It's a multi-pronged approach, really.
So for someone listening right now feeling stuck, what's one tiny thing they could try, like today?
Maybe just try the physiological sigh a few times. Double inhale nose, long exhale. Feel that immediate small shift, that connection.
Or maybe commit to just 10 minutes of focused work and really practice noticing and resisting that urge to check the phone just during that short block. Start training that no-go.
That's a great one, too. Or commit to a 10-minute walk, something small, physical, consistent.
Build that foundation, small steps.
Consistency over intensity, often. And maybe a final thought to leave people with for this deep dive.
Yeah.
Think about how you could consciously direct your cravings, what you truly value, and maybe, just maybe, consciously face down a small fear, harness it. How could that actually unlock your motivation? What tiny fear could you perhaps leverage as fuel today to move forward just a little bit?